back to Cinema Corner. I'm Blake, and here are my co-hosts, Alex and Josh.
And today we are reviewing The Boys Season 4. You know, it's always that fun time when The Boys, the full season is finally released and we can finally talk about it. Me personally, I was watching it pretty much weekly. I think these two both waited for the full thing to come out, or almost all the way. I want to say you guys probably started watching it around episode 7, I think, is what I remember you guys saying, and then you guys binge watched pretty much the entire thing. So yeah, we're here to talk about it and all of the diabolical things that happened this season. Love that. So I wanted to kind of break down each individual episode to like one or two specific things that each one had. So I feel like each episode had one thing that like stood out, or like one big plot point that happened, but I never got around to actually do it. So yeah, that was tough.
It's the thought that counts.
It is the thought that counts. But I mean, off the top of my head, I want to say either episode 1 or 2 is when Firecracker is introduced. So I mean, obviously later on in the season she becomes a more prominent role, but yeah, there's some scenes there that happen. I think the big one that we're probably gonna talk about is probably episode 4. I mean, that's almost like, and 3/4 of that episode was just the Homelander episode. Episode 5, the V'd up animals. You know, there's just some wild ass shit in here. But what are some of the things that stood out to you guys this season?
Blake, thoughts?
What? No.
Blake, thoughts?
Nothing.
Blake, why do you not want to share your thoughts about The Boys?
We're not taking. That's Alex's thing. We're not doing that. All right, that's Alex's
Blake,
thing.
Opinions?
Thank you. Yeah, my opinions on the as you said, it is tough to do a whole season review. Obviously, it is 8 episodes, so unless we're gonna make this like 3 hours long, it's hard for us to dive too much in detail. So I feel like we're kind of just gonna touch on the big key points, like you said. Yeah, overall as a season, just kind of a general oversight. I thought for boys standards, I think it was a little bit of a down season, especially compared to season 3. I think season 3 is probably my personal favorite season. I think one of their best seasons. So I think it was a little bit of a drop in terms of them. That being said, it still was a really, really good season overall as a TV show. But it definitely did feel a bit at times like it was kind of like a filler season. Obviously, the way everything ended, especially the final, I don't even know for sure, probably 5 to 8 minutes of the final episode is heavily setting up for season 5 to be spectacular. But it at points definitely felt a little bit like this was a filler season. But I mean, I still enjoyed it. Like you said, I mean, there was some classic boys stuff that happened throughout the season that you're like, yep, this is the only show that you're going to get this kind of content for sure. For good or for worse. Sometimes it's like, what are we doing right now? What am I watching? But that's kind of why you watch the show, because it is just so ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, I definitely still enjoyed the season. I just felt in terms of their standards, it was a bit of a down season for them.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think it's definitely what makes it tough is the fact that you had such just action-packed, just almost like peak scenes happening almost every episode last season, and then now they kind of use this season as the filler for everything that was left out of last season to build up to the final season. So they kind of like fucked them own selves basically with this season. They had no choice but to really make this that filler, you would say. But for being a filler season, much better than most shows' filler seasons. Still was enjoyed. I think it definitely, in my opinion, got carried by Butcher's storyline and his character arc, and seeing how now everything has gone back to shit for him. But it still was nice to see the conflicts that he was having from everybody's influence, as well as I love like the small moments of still him kind of like flipping a 180 when it comes to season 1 with him and Huey to now. Anytime Huey's about to do something unhinged, he always tries to stop him. And even sort of when he loses absolute control, he still pushes Huey out the side. So I like the little detail. But if it wasn't for Butcher's whole, just what the fuck's going on with our man, it really was just, let's just fuck over Huey season.
Yeah.
And just every episode, he was a victim in any regard. Just personally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
It just,
Like,
I think he had a 3-episode run where just all 3 type of entities that you can get fucked over, he got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like the run between like episode
6,
4
7, and
through
8.
6.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, definitely 7. For sure 7.
Definitely 7.
And definitely part of 8.
Yeah.
5 then. Oh yeah, 5 because 5 is the one where
Yeah. It's just, it was like, what are we doing? You know, I mean, at that point, it's a personal vendetta against my man. Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. It got to a point where it's like, okay, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing? Let's spread it to somebody else, you know? And spreading it to somebody else, how about Frenchie? I think we all can agree. Frenchie's weird turn arc was just, it didn't play out, in my opinion. Didn't feel natural. It was like, why now do you give a shit? I felt like they were handling this whole him struggling with his past so much better when we learned about more his past in, it was last season, right? Where we learned about,
with the whole,
that was good. But then now it's like, okay, you throw in a new character that ends up being one of his victims. I don't know. It just was odd. It was like a forceful way when we already kind of got that strong experience with him dealing with his past last season. And now he wants to turn away when he can do something about it. It just, I don't know. It didn't play out. It was weird. It was like they're trying to combine him and Kimiko's like story more together when it just didn't need to happen for them to still connect. Like, it just leave Frenchie's side out, just continue with Kimiko's, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, I definitely think Frenchie this season was the worst character, like, for the most
Made
part.
it hard.
I mean, did not care about Frenchie for the most part a lot of this, which stunk because for the majority he was a really good character. But I also personally think MM took a huge dip for me. I thought this season MM was a little whatever for the most part. He definitely still had moments, at least. Frenchie honestly didn't really even have like a moment that I can think of. MM still at least had some moments where he was still classic MM that I liked. But I think there's a good amount of MM that I was kind of just like, eh. I mean, honestly, like you said, Butcher definitely had his back hurt a little bit after the season. I think he did a lot of carrying for sure for me.
Which
I
is
think
kind of
Starlight,
funny because he wasn't really there like with them a lot of the time.
I know, he was on his own
kind of
thing.
his own thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think Starlight for me also had a huge, for the most part, she was great this season. I think she was one of the stars for sure. Her and Huey definitely both. I mean, obviously at the end, you know, rough patch in the relationship. But overall, I thought Starlight and Huey both this season were really strong, and Butcher was strong. And then obviously, I mean, Homelander had some classic Homelander scenes that he just continues to build, being one of the greatest fictional TV villains of all time, I think. But yeah, I definitely think there was Kimiko. I feel like she was kind of, if anything, a little uptick for me personally, but not anything like stellar. But I definitely think for the boys, plus obviously as you know, they talked about the boys and then Starlight and Kimiko. For them, like I said, those are kind of those main 5 characters, and then adding in Homelander, that was kind of my opinion on all of them. That couple dips, but yeah, Butcher, Starlight, and Huey definitely and Homelander were definitely the stars for me.
Yeah, I loved how they handled Starlight. I thought big jump, which was nice because it was starting to get rough, especially between her and Huey. Now, well, I gotta say, a little weird her reaction. But I get, you know, they all were dealing with a bunch of trauma at the end. But, you know, come on, Huey's the victim here.
Yeah,
okay, it was 20 times. It was a little funny, but at the same time, like, I mean,
it was a little rough. That was a little rough.
Man's a literal victim again. So, you know, hey, we're getting mad? Okay. I don't know. Anyways, it was still funny, though. They at least played it in a kind of heartful way when he gets happy, of alluding to the fact that he's still going to get some. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just... All right. yeah, it was nice though. It was nice that those two took a nice lead. I mean, Hugh, I think, hasn't had, in my opinion, a down season yet. So I think still just Butcher carried hard this season, which is weird because normally filler seasons, you'd think the side characters like Frenchie, Kamiko would rise in a season like this. But it's like they just didn't know what to do with them, especially with And instead, it kind of seemed like the Deep was one that he was pretty funny on his little weird shit going on. And they took extra time also with Homelander, giving more lore with him. So I don't know, it was odd.
I would even argue too that like they also gave a little more shine to Black Noir now that he speaks, because obviously,
I was gonna say, what were you guys' thoughts
on?
on the new Noir?
I don't know. It's hard to have any thoughts this early for me. I thought it worked of just making little tiny goofy moments with the Deep. But in terms of, it felt like it was a statement to trick you that he's not a Homelander clone, just because everyone kept talking about that's the whole deal in the comics. But then purposely making sure that they emphasize that he can fly. And so that was weird. I don't know. No idea about him.
I do like that it's still the same actor who's been playing him the whole time. It's just that now he talks and he actually takes off the mask and it's not like scarred and everything. So it still feels like it's Black Noir in there, but obviously with a little bit of a twist, this is, a recasted quote unquote Black Noir. I liked the little bromance that him and the Deep had. Like even when they found out that they've been both sleeping with Sister Sage, they're like, bro. I would argue that I actually liked A Train's kind of like story this season too. Let's not forget about him. This whole season, he was like said, he's right there. We just need to know how to like push him in the right direction. And and they definitely did that. So would I have liked for him to stick around for the finale? Probably. But do I understand why they chose to have him exit the episode prior? Yes. So, but I feel like that's not the end of A Train. I feel like he will be back for season 5. And I'm very curious to see how his whole story from obviously from when he first showed up in episode 1, season 1, killing Huey's girlfriend, to now where he's had that full redemption arc. See how that all gets paid off.
And I like how it's actually been something they've been working towards. It wasn't just like I felt like they just switched it this season. Like there's even stuff last season where you could see that he was on his way to being on that border.
2 seasons, really.
Right. So like I do appreciate that it wasn't just like all of a sudden this season like we should have somebody kind of help out. Like it definitely has been something that they've been working towards. That absolutely expect to see him in season 5 have a pretty big role when it comes to fighting, assuming that there's going to be some kind of major fight between, the 7 or just the soups in general that Homelander is now kind of controlling all of. Definitely expect for him to have a big part of season 5 in the fight.
Speaking of soups, I don't know. I was a bit of a disappointment that the Gen V had, I think, a 1% impact on this season. I was expecting at minimum 5%, Wasn't asking for a lot, but we got a 1 shot and then a 2 shot.
We got maybe 30, and that's generous. 30 seconds of screen time for them.
Yeah, that was. I'll do anything for you, Homelander, and then taking a punch to the face and making French go away. Which of course, the ending was nuts. Yeah, great song choice, great ending. Finally, what I liked about it the most was they kept alluding to the fact, for 2 seasons straight now, almost, that Homelander knows where they are and just hasn't done shit. And it was starting to kind of bother me. I was like, okay, man, listen, as much as I love the boys, this is your number 1 enemy. You're unhinged. How are they still alive? Like, we're starting to get plot armor in a show that's had no plot armor. And then it's like, okay, now at the end, they all get caught with ease. They don't get the magical escape. And then, of course, them throwing in the joke that is like fucking, 0 for 3 against fucking Big Penis Man. Like, and also, that's a callback to the joke about the fact that he is actually, 0 for 4 against big penises, because The stepdad
Todd.
had a big
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Todd.
Todd.
yeah.
He took a bat to the face.
I do
episode 2, I
appreciate
think.
too how they mentioned that at one point this season about the whole Homelander knowing where they are, and he said something about like, well, they're working with the FBI, and that's a whole nother thing. So like Homelander, it was somewhat addressed this season. Like, yeah, obviously Homelander
Yeah.
knows and could just go wipe them in a second, but he's like, I know if they have connections that would probably create a whole nother thing. So it's like, whatever, they're not a threat to me, honestly. So fuck them. Like, just let them be them.
Yeah, I also enjoyed the whole CIA versus them as well, of like the government's going at it. Very cool. And of course, just having the classic nothing works out for you ending. But
Yeah, the good guys essentially lost. They're all split apart. The only one that escaped was Starlight.
speaking of
Everyone
splitting
else-
apart,
Oh
Neuman,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Oh wait, let's talk about the first one that got split, because that was just random and wild. Weaver.
That was
he just got-
sweet.
he just
I was
got-
hyped that Homelander, that was like a cool Homelander kill right there. Like, instead of just a laser or something, just sort of like grabbing him and just starting to pull him, being like, what the hell is he doing? And then just tear it. I thought that was like a crazy Homelander strength flex that they did.
Yeah. That was nice for sure. Sorry, Josh. You were saying?
No, I was just curious about your guys' thoughts about Newman's death. Because it's a big one.
Sad, but I understand. Like, I hate to see the character end there, but I understood why they had to do it. It was kind of like she was the catalyst. She was like the ultimate thing where it's like, now you know Butcher is fucking done. He does not give a shit. And him killing her was like the tipping point. It's like, all right, fuck it. I'm on this one-man journey mission to kill all the fucking soups. And unfortunately, she was the casualty, but, sucks, but understood.
I was happy about it. I thought it was sweet that we finally got season 1 Butcher. It feels like at least back of Scorch Earth, There's no TH at the end of that. But it was just, I love to see full-on Butcher just going crazy. It was, honestly, Neuman, she was a really cool character and all, but I was kind of like, oh, now she's going to flip back. It's like all these people are going to flip, blah, blah. It's like, I don't really care. Like, let's make a point here. Butcher's a demon now, which is cool to see. Yeah, I thought it was so cool, the fact that he just grabbed her, ripped her, covered her eyes and stuff. I think, honestly, part of that had to do with Marie from Gen V. I think, obviously, we saw in Gen V, her and Neuman had that conversation about having this ability to control blood and all that stuff. I thought this was kind of a point to make sure, like, we don't really need two people with, like, very, very similar, if not the exact same, we're not fully sure, powers. So I thought Gen V did play a part in that they're like, all right, let's have Marie take over kind of the whole blood control type ability, which I'm fine with, obviously. Like, hey, I thought Gen V was really good. I really like Marie, so I'm fine with them kind of choosing her over Neuman. But I thought, yeah, it definitely was I enjoyed that scene a lot because it just started off the whole what the hell is going on right now for the end of that 5 minutes.
Yeah, I liked how the kill was. I like Butcher and the classic, him saying you're welcome at the end.
Yeah.
But I was sad. Neuman, I love Neuman so much. She was just badass. Never knew what was going to come out of her, and she was the smartest until Sage came in my opinion. But even just all her scenes, I thought were just so fun. About when Butcher tried to shoot her in the head and the bullet flying away. Like,
yeah, plenty
of good scenes from her, and now it's the end of an era.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. One thing that I wonder about is how does that affect what's going on with Stan Edgar right now with her dying. I kind of wonder, obviously we saw that she kind of helped him after, the whole Animal Farm scene, that she was the one kind of helped him escape, and we haven't seen him since. I wonder how much that's going to affect him in terms of, I feel like he's going to get Zoe. I don't know if we're going to see this because I don't know how much they're actually going to care, because honestly, like, who really cares? But I feel like there's going to be some kind of nod of him getting Zoe out of the whole Red River home for sure. I definitely don't think she's going to stay there. But again, are they really going to waste too much time talking about that? Probably not, which I'm okay with. Like, I don't really know if that matters to us. But that's one thing that I wonder for sure about. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I thought Butcher just kind of doing that and his whole "you're welcome," just he's fully on a solo mission was really cool. Also, I liked his kind of final goodbye to Huey in a way. Before, I think that was before Ryan came in that room, right? That he was on the phone with him. But I thought that was a huge moment for the show of him kind of Butcher kind of finally acknowledging like, yeah, this is assuming this is kind of the end of like that kind of Butcher. Like we're now getting just demon mode all the time Butcher now. So I thought that scene was also really powerful, that again showing that relationship between the two of you that you kind of mentioned earlier, that how much that Butcher and Huey kind of have that, and he still, like you said, pushed Huey out of the side a little bit just to get him out of the way. But I thought that scene was definitely impactful to show like, yeah, I kind of think Butcher is full on going back to scorched earth Butcher.
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad they are continuing the kind of brother relationship that they got and not just ditching that arc that they spent 2 full seasons for. So,
right.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, really, it is just a setup. It's nice. I definitely think the hate towards it early on was odd. I didn't really think anything was outlandish in terms of their political commentary and jokes at everybody from any of the previous seasons. Felt the same, so I don't know if it's just people were acting different for some reason. I don't know. But overall solid. Obviously,
I mean, I feel like we need to talk a little bit about Homelander though too. We gotta talk about him throughout the whole season.
I mean, can we also kind of like include Sage in it, because she was such a pivotal part in him also kind of rising to where he is at now. Because without her, he wouldn't technically be there, and she pretty much alluded to it. Even though she was quote unquote out of the picture, her plan still worked exactly how she planned it, even when she wasn't there. Allegedly, but
I don't know. There's just something about me when it comes to characters like those. It's nothing personal against Sage, but it's more of like, it's almost a cop-out, I feel like, for writers of like, hey, there's this genius, and now we can literally get them to pull off anything because they're just a genius. So that's my only issue with Sage. Otherwise, I felt like she had some fun moments. Like, obviously, her literally making herself dumber for the deep was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then once shot her in the head, and she was supposed to give the plan, and Homelander was like,
exactly,
bruh, the fuck. It's like, what happens if that happens again during like a moment in time where I need you? It's like you're completely fucking useless. You know. So I was
I thought overall she was like a good addition, like you said, but I just thought Homelander again was continuing his whole being one of the greatest villains. Obviously, I think whatever you said, that was season 5 or 6 where he went back to the lab where he was created. That whole scene, or that whole episode going back to scenes of him in there was, I thought, just phenomenal acting and just really adding to him just being a fucking just monster, just doing whatever he wants. And that kind of ties in with some stuff with Ryan too, because obviously he's going to be a huge part of season 5, it looks like. But their whole relationship was interesting too, because it at times felt a little weird to me. Like, it seemed like there was some episodes where Homelander was like fully on board of like, hey, it's just you're the only one I care about, like just me and you, buddy, whatever you want to do. And that seemed like the next episode he just didn't care about Ryan at all. It was like off with Sage the entire time and like didn't focus on him. So like, I thought there was a little inconsistencies with that, because it literally would go from like the last time we saw him
for a while. They've been alluding, like even in like the one episode where where Vought is trying to make like a movie, or like his first save, like his first official save for Ryan. And in that episode, it starts with Homelander wanting, to make, Ryan his successor, but then towards the end, or towards like the middle end, he's like, but no, because he himself wants to still be there. So like,
but after that episode, but the whole point of that episode was to get over that. The whole point of him was talking to the mirrors about like, you have to go back where it started. You have to like squish this part of you, like get rid of this part. And so then he goes there and he obviously like kills everybody, and then he gives his whole speech to Ryan about like, I'm officially done caring about them. They're all less than this. And then literally the exact next episode, he just does not care about Ryan at all. And I'm just like, Like, I get if we're doing the whole internal battle thing, but it's like, to do something like that where he's like, officially, I'm all done. Like, it's just you and me, buddy. As far as I'm concerned, this whole planet's empty. And then literally the next episode, he just doesn't care about Ryan. I'm like, okay, this feels a little bit lazy to me. It's like, I get if you want to have the actual back and forth, sure. But just to have that complete change by the next episode was a little like, I don't really like that part as much.
Yeah, fair. But I think what makes Ryan like a interesting character for season 5 is the fact that you can see both sides of him. You know, both Homelander and him, and you see obviously like the Butcher's wife and Butcher himself's part in him. You know, so it's like he sees a point where it's like he's still redeemable, but then there's at other points where he's not. But I feel like a lot of that has to do because he has spent a lot of time with Homelander. It's like, you know, he's on the tipping point. You just don't know where he's gonna land. Is he gonna land on the Homelander side, or is he gonna land on the good side? And yeah, it seems, at least at the very end of the season, that he's kind of leaning more towards the Homelander side. Especially with them not really showing remorse at all. Completely different from when he killed his mom by accident. So,
and even the stunt guy.
And even
the stunt guy was crying.
So.
Yeah, I do think he's going to be interesting. And then obviously we had the end credit scene of Homelander and Soldier Boy whole thing that I think that's going to be very interesting to see next season. But I don't know. I honestly don't really know what's going to happen with the whole Ryan storyline. Like, I wouldn't be too surprised to see him come around and be a big part of helping them defeat Homelander and all those soups, but I also wouldn't be too surprised if he ends up kind of not dying, but ending up just kind of fleeing, and that kind of be the end of his storyline. Like, I don't think they're going to kill him, or like especially like Butcher or anything going to kill him if something happens in the fight, but I also wouldn't be too surprised to see him just basically have like a little panic attack, seeing them fight and just fly off, and that's it. Like, he just fucking, it's like, all right, I don't really know what to do right now, so I'm a dip, and that's it.
See, yeah, the only thing I hope the boys' thing to do, I feel like the boys' thing to do is, I feel like they're gonna do it. Butcher's gonna kill Homelander, and we saw the seeds being planted. He's like, I can't kill my own father, so he's gonna feel a certain type of way. And boom, you've essentially created another Homelander. I feel like that's what they're gonna do, or something similar along those lines. I feel like that's kind of what they've been, you know, alluding to, especially with him spending a lot of time with Homelander, and that little bit of not showing like actual remorse, and obviously him saying, I can't kill my own father. So when Butcher does, since obviously we now know that he's full on Vita Butcher, he's gonna kill Homelander probably, and Ryan's gonna take it a certain way, and then boom, you've essentially created another Homelander, which was Becca's one fear, was, you know, him becoming just like Homelander.
Hey man, as long as he stops being the guy that basically prevents us from having dope action scenes, then I'll be happy. Otherwise, I don't give two shits about Ryan's character at the moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with that a little bit.
Because I swear to God, if it happens where it's like, oh no, don't kill Homelander, and then Butcher doesn't do the kill shot because of Ryan, and like Butcher dies because of it or some shit like that, I will not enjoy a single second of next season if that's how that goes.
Now here's the real question: who kills the Deep, Starlight or Ashley?
I mean, I'm hoping it's Ashley because that would be hilarious.
It has to be.
Dude, I don't know. She's going to turn into, like, fucking Megamind or something. Some hairy-ass Megamind. I don't know. Yeah. Just the womp-womp. A woman has to kill.
I hope it is Ashley. I hope she's the one who gets to do it.
I also what's going to happen with Starlight, too. Like,
Starlight's going to kill. If she's going to kill anybody in the 7, it's going to be Firecracker. She's especially after what Firecracker put her through this whole season. Yeah, she's gonna kill her. She has to kill her.
I mean, she might die herself though before that happens.
Oh, true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, like the old milker, mommy milker. It's literally mommy milker episode.
She had to do what she had to do to get on Homelander's good side, apparently, and
Yeah. What a
it's gonna take her out. It's got to take her out. But overall, I mean, like we said, pretty solid season. A little bit of a filler. Definitely gets you hyped for season 5. Unfortunately, obviously, we're gonna have at least a 2-year wait for that, which is obviously unfortunate just for the waiting side. But hopefully they take their time and do it right. And
the good news is that Gen V is coming out next year. So we don't feel that big of a drought in terms of that universe. Gen V is set to come out next year, and then obviously the boys following up the year after. So yeah, we don't have to wait too long to continue with this.
Hopefully they stick the landing. That's all that matters. Take their time and stick the landing. Make it season 5, final season. Make it done right. Like Josh said, please don't do a cop-out thing with Homelander. We need the fucking Butcher versus Homelander battle, and we need the actual whoever's going to kill who in that moment to kill them. Don't need a little cop-out moment of something else happening. So that's kind of one of my big things for next season. But yeah, I mean, the boys, a little bit of a dip, but still by all means a very, very entertaining season.
I'd argue I'd probably put season 2 under this one. I don't know. That's just me personally. I feel like if I had to rank them, I'd probably be 3, 1, 4, 2. It's kind of like how I would put it, but
I can see that.
Like we said, an off season for the boys is a great season for a different show. So,
yeah.
Let's not pretend that this was bad, because it's not.
But
so, yeah.
Hopefully we'll see. I imagine we're going to see some stuff in Gen V that ties into this. I personally, I definitely think we're going to see Starlight at some point in Gen V season 2.
You would think.
I would not be too surprised if A-Train has a little appearance in it as well. But I'm excited for that. This universe is definitely cooking. And they're headed towards a very elite climax, hopefully. That doesn't let us down. But I think that's going to do it for this video. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.